I'm Jeremy Mikolajczak. I'm the Executive Director and Chief Curator here at the MDC Museum of Art and Design, located within the historic Freedom Tower at Miami-Dade College. Here I oversee not only the museum and the Freedom Tower, but I also oversee the college has 6 campus galleries at 6 of its 8 locations. In addition to that, we also have a large format sculpture park, the Miami International Sculpture Park at the North Campus. And also we have a couple other spaces. There's an art space at the medical campus and at the Homestead campus as well. It's a large network of galleries and art spaces that engage the public, that are free and open to all. And most importantly, and I think most wholeheartedly, is the continued stewardship of this great historic building, the Freedom Tower. It's been with the college since 2007, and our organization moved in here in 2010, and we've been operating out of this building since then. Over those course of the years, I've been with the college now for about 4 years. Over the course of that time, we've been able to install exhibitions, put in permanent spaces, renovate the building to make it more publicly accessible. And so I really oversee all the operations that come with that type of organization, from the curatorial process of selecting exhibitions to working with great curators, historians, to talk about the history of this great building and within this great community. And really every aspect to what it's like to put a museum together, from marketing to building membership to designing education courses. It's really an extensive, and there's really no one definition of what directors do. The college has actually been collecting since 1960. There's a collection here of over 1,700 objects from the art perspective. And in addition to that, we are in the process of installing 2 special collections here. One is the Freedom Tower Archive that would relate to the Cuban exile community and their relationship to this historic building. And in addition to that, we're also working with the Wolfson Moving Archives to start collecting some more sort of media and journalistic based artifacts. And we just received a large donation from FA, the news agency, of about 75 photographs, which basically highlighted their 75th anniversary as an agency. So it's a really interesting and accessible way to sort of collect, and it's a very broad scope of collecting. We don't necessarily have one specific focus. When I first arrived, it was really about establishing an institution. I think it's a very, the museum itself, and I think the access to the Freedom Tower is really a hidden gem downtown in Miami. Not many people sort of knew that the building existed, and one of our first goals really was to get the building open to the public. And we've been able to do that through the establishment of the museum in 2012. And we've been holding regular operating hours Wednesday through Sunday from 12 to 5. Our admission here is always free, and about 95% of our programs here are free and open to the public. And that was really the first goal here, and under sort of the direction of Dr. Eduardo Padron, the president of the college, the mandate was really to establish and build a museum, and to really make this building a prominent cultural center in downtown. And that, I think, is one of our sort of short-term and long-term goals. I think the achievement of actually getting the building open, getting a 12-month exhibition program started, has been quite an achievement, and quite an arduous journey, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But like most places, I have a fantastic staff who are dedicated to the mission of the museum as well, which is making art accessible to all. And in addition to that, also playing a role within this great education institution that we have with the students and the faculty at Miami-Dade College and New World School of the Arts. We have a very small staff here that actually that wear many hats, but we have a full-time staff of 6 and a part-time staff of 4. And then, which was great, the museum just completed its first annual report, which is something that we feel very proud about. And within the past year, we had over 250 volunteers engage with the institution in one way or the other, whether that be through volunteering for openings, working on various education programs, but it was quite a wonderful feat. Going forward, I think it's really about really getting the museum to a place of prominence within this community. Again, I think it's an under sort of kind of flying under the radar type institution here, where we have great institutions downtown, including obviously Perez Art Museum Miami, History Miami, and also the forthcoming Frost Science Museum. But it's really important that this museum really get within the public, sort of within their purview, that they can come in, that they understand that the museum's here, it's free, and that outside of, we don't just serve sort of the Cuban exile community. There are multiple exhibits here that, number one, look at a global approach to looking at art and design, but then on top of that, you would be able to sort of see the history of the building and sort of experience that, which is also very important to us. And outside of that, I think it's also to the integration into the community. We've worked with great community partners in the past, even outside of our own network of cultural partners, including the Miami International Film Festival, the Miami Book Fair International, and MDC Live Arts. We've partnered with great organizations, we've partnered with different consulates from the various different embassies here in the city. And on top of that, we worked with great organizations, including the Downtown Development Authority, the YWCA in Overtown, and Diaspora Vibe Cultural Arts Incubator. The collection is a mix of both acquisitions and donations to the college. In the past, the college, as I said, from 1964, we've been collecting work, and there were 2 or 3 instrumental faculty members who actually built the foundation of the collection. Robert Huff being one of them, Robert Sindelar, and Robert Thiele. They were the main faculty at the time at MDC Kendall North and South. And they really laid the groundwork for the collection, and that's where the college really started buying a lot of work, including Andy Warhol, Joseph Beuys, Donald Judd. There's some real hidden gems that many folks don't really know about here, and that's something that the museum also, from a goal perspective, is working on, and we're actually looking to install our first long-term exhibition highlighting the prominent works within the collection. But it's been active since then. A lot of artists have then donated, and a lot of estates and different sort of art collectors have then come on board to help in the acquisition of artifacts for the museum. And most recently, the museum just acquired a Dwayne Hansen head, which I think most Miamians are very familiar with Dwayne Hansen, given the Miami Dolphins football player at the Lowe Museum. And also an interesting fact is Dwayne Hansen was actually a faculty member at the MDC North Campus. So that was one of his first starts as an educator. We're tied to the community wholeheartedly as Miami-Dade College. We're under the auspices of this great college and this great institution. It's the largest, campus-based institution in the country. And outside of that, the reach is extremely extensive. And it's really, the museum is really the signature institution for the presentation of visual arts from the college. It's been a long-awaited institution, I think obviously too as a collecting institution. So outside of that as well, it would be remiss to say that the biggest way that we also connect is the stewardship and the presentation of this building, and the fact that the Freedom Tower is open to the public. Coming from the Midwest to Miami, obviously getting an education in sort of the Cuban exile community and a little bit more into sort of Cuban politics and how that plays a role into this, it was a really interesting sort of way to get involved. And I think too, with all the sort of current dialogue that's happened, the role of this building and the role of this institution are they're going to be shaped as we proceed forward. And I can honestly say that it's been a humbling experience to engage with the Cuban community and their relationship to this building. I can't tell you the number of times somebody has walked in here who has been a visitor that they haven't been back since the 1960s. And that is one of the most rewarding experiences. Last summer, when we did the first call for the Freedom Tower Archive, it was such an amazing experience, because the people who brought artifacts in to donate to this archive, they sat and talked for about 25, 30, sometimes more, up to an hour. And they didn't just come in and say, I want to donate this, I want to give this to the archive. There was obviously a lot of dialogue that happened about where the artifact came from and how they got it here. And the ability of this institution to both serve an arts function and a cultural function is extremely important and amazing, and just an amazing opportunity. And just the personal nature of really the way that this building connects with the public. It's you know, it's one of the most historic buildings that we have left standing in South Florida. Obviously, we love to, from a preservation standpoint, bulldoze and build new, which is, you know, happens in many cities. But I think it's so important that this building has remained to become an icon in South Florida.